We're back with another installment of the Sports Pileup, post-Super Bowl style. We'll break down all the happenings here from the big game, Super Bowl 45. The Packers coming out on top of the Steelers 31-25. And we'll also talk a little bit about all the other happenings around people not having tickets, some terrible commercials, I thought. Break down the Black Eyed Peas and everything else. And then to wrap up the show, we'll look at a little preview here before we go with the offseason coming up with the NFL and tell you a little bit about what's in store for next week's Sports Pileup. But Jeff, first of all, the game itself, I thought, really, we talked about this last week, one of the keys was going to be Aaron Rodgers being able to kind of spread out the Steelers. I mentioned on the show last week that I thought Troy Polamalu would be the key for the Steelers defense, and he was. He was absolutely no factor in the game. Aaron Rodgers and company spreading out that whole defense, and it was kind of funny. It looked like Aaron Rodgers was actually just toying with Troy Polamalu most of the game. We saw that on 2 of the touchdown passes where Polamalu was late getting over. And really, you know, Green Bay was in control, but you got to credit Pittsburgh. They made a great comeback. A couple Packers went out with injuries, notably Charles Woodson. And Ben Roethlisberger and that Steelers team never said die and was able to make it close in the second half and actually had a chance coming down the stretch. What were some of your impressions of that game, and especially the first half?
Yeah, first half, I mean, you have too many turnovers. They looked a little bit sloppy. The Pittsburgh Steelers came out and really just weren't taking care of the ball. In a big game like this, you got to do that. Their backs were put up against the wall, put in a pretty bad situation going into the half. Obviously, Charles Woodson on the Green Bay Packers went down, and that's what a good team will do. They'll readjust and take advantage of those situations, and they came back and made it a real game.
Yeah, I agree. I think the turnovers, as you mentioned, was really the key. I mean, that interception return for a touchdown was about as close to a backbreaker as you could have in the first quarter of a Super Bowl. And really, anytime you go down 3-0 in the turnover battle in a game, and the statistics prove this, that the chances of you winning that game are like less than 10%.
You got to give credit to the Green Bay defense there. They really stepped it up. They looked like they had a lot of passion, a lot of heart. They were attacking the ball, and there wasn't really much that they could do but hand off the ball to Richard, who did a fairly good job. But when you enter into the passing game, and he had a couple hits on Roethlisberger where he's throwing it off his back foot. Through that big interception there, they really started off pretty sluggish and put themselves into a deep hole.
You know, I thought the fumble by Mendenhall was just devastating in the third quarter. They kind of had the momentum. They were down 21-17, got the ball back for the second time. I thought that was going to be the possession that Pittsburgh came down and took the lead in the football game. And that fumble by Mendenhall was just devastating. It took all the momentum away from Pittsburgh. And then even late in the game, Green Bay got the ball back with 6 minutes to go, marched down the field, converted that huge third down play when you still thought that maybe Pittsburgh had a chance, and then Green Bay kicks the field goal to make it 31-25 and make it a touchdown possession game. You felt that Pittsburgh was always nipping at their heels, but just could never get over that hump.
The turnovers killed him. Aaron Rodgers was on point. He was threading needles. Some of those touchdown passes were near blocks from the cornerbacks and safeties. They were just amazing throws, amazing catches. Greg Jennings with pulled in two touchdowns with a great performance on his end. I knew he would have to be a key player for the Packers offense to get moving, and they did a good job keeping the defense of the Steelers on their heels. And of course, what I'm even more impressed with is the Packers defense with Charles Woodson in there, really just shutting down the Steelers. They didn't have an answer for anything until he went out.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I mean, Aaron Rodgers' run, going all the way back to when he came back from that concussion, he came back against the Giants in a must-win game in Week 16, won that game, beat Chicago in Week 17, and then he has been on just some kind of roll in these playoffs. And he was 24 for 39, and he had 4 drops. I mean, it was pretty much a perfect performance by him, and this obviously elevates him into the elites in this league. Probably on par with Brady, Manning, and maybe Breeze in that level. But I thought that he just orchestrated the game beautifully. We got into the second half, and they needed to make some crucial first down plays and kind of stave off Pittsburgh, and they did that. The pass over the middle to Jennings on that 3rd and 10 late in the game with about 5 minutes to go, where he threaded that needle, was probably the biggest single play in the game for Green Bay in the second half. Hats off to Green Bay. They had a great run coming in as a 6th seed, exercised the demons of Brett Favre.
I gotta say, there's probably not going to be one more question asked his way regarding that. You know, he has one more Super Bowl than Dan Marino. He has just tied Brett Favre. He's certainly going to be taking that title of elite class quarterbacks and putting that in his pocket.
Well, Aaron Rodgers, Super Bowl MVP. Brett Favre was never an MVP of the Super Bowl.
That's right.
So you've got that. He's always going to have that one up on Favre there.
He will. And you know what? Unlike Favre, I think he's going to get another ring or two.
Pittsburgh, again, they're going to be back as well. They're pretty loaded. That defense is going to be strong again next year. The only thing about their defense is they needed more speed on the outside. They were exposed by New England in the regular season, and they were kind of exposed here by Green Bay. But I look for Pittsburgh to be right back as one of the contenders for the AFC crown again next year. But overall, I think the Super Bowl was the game itself. Obviously, an overwhelming success. It was the most watched television show in the history of television, so fans who didn't get into the game, who bought tickets, kind of a black eye there for the NFL.
Speaking of black eyes, you had the Black Eyed Peas. Now, I'm just very refreshed to not have a Bruce Springsteen,
the Rolling Stones,
the Who, and not that they're bad bands in any regard, but they're definitely toward the end. Sure, I'd like to go see them in concert, but not at a Super Bowl concert.
Well, they're just... Yeah, Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson kind of ruined it for everybody.
Yeah.
I think as far as the NFL goes.
The NFL has certainly turned a little prudish when it comes to performances since that. But I did love seeing Slash rise up into the stage from the ground level up and play some Sweet Child of Mine. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought they did a pretty good job on the show. They had a few technical difficulties with some mics early on, but I thought overall the performance was great. I mean, a lot of energy.
Yeah, and you had Aguilera open it up with the Star Spangled Banner, and
or something like that.
She messed up a couple lyrics, and you know,
which I think that's inexcusable. You can't have that.
You know, maybe she went into autopilot. I'm not going to give her excuses, but she sung that song probably, you know, at least 100 times and has never messed it up. And of course, there she goes and forgets a lyric.
I mean, that's inexcusable, I think, in the largest stage ever.
Yeah, you think you might want to rehearse that a few times.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
She did hold that last note out over 6 seconds, so the over/under in Vegas was 6 seconds. So whoever had the over won that as well, and the coin toss was heads. So sorry, Ryan Fantasia, betting on tails, you lose.
Yeah, and I think Green Bay won the toss, right? So yeah, the NFC I think has won 13 years in a row. They've won the coin toss.
It is.
The next thing that we'll probably be discussing here in the next week or 2 or 3 weeks is this impending lockout on March 3rd. You know, there's a lot of, that was kind of a dark cloud over the whole proceedings this week as well. You know, we'll see. We got the draft coming up in late April, but they've got to get a deal hammered out before we can get into the draft.
They do, and even before the draft, you know, this is when people make moves, and you get a lot of free agents out there. What's going to go on? I mean, yeah, I guess they could talk to each other unofficially, but you're not allowed to work out with the team. There's a lot of things that this affects, not just a lockout here where are we going to have a season, but assuming we do have a season, this negotiation period is really throwing off the standard ebb and flow in between the offseason with different moves. So it's interesting to see what kind of situations will happen there with backup quarterbacks looking to start on other teams and being restricted there. So yeah, we'll keep you posted on that.
Yeah, you mentioned the not being able to work out with teams. I would think somebody like a Kevin Cobb right now has got to be pretty anxious. I mean, he's going to be the most wanted man. He's going to be basically the LeBron James of the NFL, I think, this offseason.
Absolutely.
A lot of teams could use his services, and he really can't do anything. He's in limbo until we get a new deal in place for collective bargaining. It's going to be interesting, but the season ended with a great game, and I think a lot of people had Green Bay before the season as one of the teams they thought could get there. So I don't think that's really a big stunner that Green Bay won it, maybe coming from a 6th seed like they did was.
What is a little bit of a stunner is that they were faced with adversity and all the injuries that plagued them throughout the year to come out on top. I mean, that really was a good team. So I can only imagine next year when they're fully healthy that they would certainly be a favorite again if there is a season.
Yeah, 15 guys on injured reserve, and they lost 2 guys in the Super Bowl and still won.
Yeah, hats off to Green Bay. What a great season. We hope that this all squares out for next season. We have another great season. As far as our show, Next week, we're going to talk about NASCAR. The NBA trade deadline is coming upon us. We'll touch on that a little bit. We'll give you a little bit of an MLB preview. So be sure to stay tuned to the Sports Pileup. Check us out on Facebook.
See you next week. Daytona 500.